Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome in. This is the Windup, SEC Unfiltered bi-weekly college baseball show. I am Chris Phillips. He is Harrison Fant. And we are here putting a bow on the 2025 regular season as the 10th and final conference weekend officially comes to a close. Some notable results, no doubt, and a lot of teams putting those finishing touches on their postseason resumes, including this week, what's to take place in Hoover, Alabama, at the SEC tournament. Once again, guys, I'm Chris Phillips. He's Harrison Fant. We appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. We got a ton to discuss as we'll look back on the weekend that was. Before we do, guys, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, check us out via podcast where you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And as always, we're powered by our friends over at FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FANDUEL.com/SECU to get $200 in bonus bets today. I am Chris Phillips. He is Harrison Fant. This is the Windup, SEC Unfiltered bi-weekly college baseball show. As once again, we put a bow on the 2025 regular season as we break down, discuss, and dissect the weekend that was conference weekend number 10 officially in the books. Harrison, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time. Really excited to chat with you. It's crazy, our final regular season conversation, but of course, you and I both know what that means. It is SEC tournament week, and with that being said, in case you guys missed the big announcement, later today or whenever you're hearing this, Monday night, 8 Central, Harrison and I will be live together from Hoover, Alabama to preview, predict, and break down this entire SEC tournament. But again, wanted to make sure we paid the proper respects to the final weekend, Harrison, of the regular season on this show here, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Excited to chat with you as always, my man.
Awesome. Glad to be here, dude. We, like you said, putting a bow on what was a beautiful and phenomenal, eye-catching, adrenaline-pumping, blood-flowing regular season in the SEC. From the start of the season to the start of conference play, each and every week, it delivered. The teams, the players, the storylines, everything delivered, and it accumulated in just, I think, an incredible weekend this past week that sets us up so well for Hoover in the SEC tournament, which we know is going to be a blast. We're going to be there absorbing all of it, getting it, every single piece of content we can in every single way and get it to the fans. And, I'm excited to recap it and looking forward to Hoover with you.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a blast. I'm really excited for it, too, as well, man. We'll be obviously chopping it up later today, here in a few short hours. We'll be getting after it together, hitting the road, if you will. But really excited, again, to look back on the weekend that was the final weekend of the regular season. Harrison, I think you nailed it every single week. Again, you sounded a bit like a broken record, but it was true. It delivered every single weekend. The best conference in college baseball, the best players, the best coaches, the best games, and the way it played out certainly had a flair for the dramatics. That being said, Harrison, let's waste no time. Go ahead and dive into the weekend that was. We will start in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And quick reminder, of course, all of these series were Thursday through Saturday. So we're going to talk about them all here. Let's go Arkansas, Tennessee first. Harrison, Arkansas takes 2 of 3 in this series after Tennessee wins game 1 in Fayetteville. It was more frustration for the Vols. They finished the regular season losing 6 of their final 7 series. And I think most of those, if not all of those, the series loss came in the rubber match on Sunday. So it just like, not only are you losing, but you're losing in brutal fashion. Again, Arkansas protects the home field. Liam Doyle notably got roughed up a little bit, was not his normal self. He did have I think, right around 10 strikeouts, but gives up 5 or 6 earned runs. The game 3 woes, I mentioned, Tennessee with an opportunity to win a series. They can't close it out. But you really, Harrison, I think looking at this series, you got to give the credit to Arkansas, the offense at home, the way they swung the bat, so many different guys contributing. Obviously, the Aloy brothers, we know about them, but Helfrich has a big game. Davalon has a big game. I mean, there's just so many guys in that lineup that can hurt you. The Hogs' offense flexing its muscles, I think that was the big difference in games 2 and 3. Arkansas certainly has locked up a top 8 national seed. Not that they needed to win this past weekend, but they have done that. And Harrison for Tennessee, it's probably going on the road for the Vols this postseason, barring a major run in Hoover.
Yeah, I think so for Tennessee. And I don't think that's a bad thing, honestly. I think they played really well in the series overall. I think they had some miscues and things that, they'd obviously want to take back and, change if they could. You can't do that, obviously, in baseball or any sport. But it's one of those things that I thought they played well, as a whole, when you're playing at Baum Walker and how hard it is. We know how difficult it is to do that. And, I just think that, and you sent me the quote that Tony Vitello said about how like emotional this team kind of is and just trying to figure that out. Not do we have enough to fight back and punch back and everything. And just like, I get that. Like, you're defending national champions. Like, you're reached the mountaintop of a program that a lot of people didn't think could get there. And you're having this target on your back all year long, it feels like, whether they're winning or losing. Like, I feel like they still have their target on their back going into the series, even though most people picked Arkansas to win playing at home. Just with how the end of their season kind of unfolded, just the miscues, the struggles, just the inconsistencies, like you said, losing. It felt like almost every series in a rubber match. Like, you think about it, like, I'm not gonna say a game is a flippable coin, but like, you win one or two of those and like you could have a different conversation. They could probably, potentially be in that hosting conversation as well. But it's one of those situations for me in which something could happen in the postseason. They can flip a switch. And I can say that about almost any SEC team and a lot of teams around the country. But the way that I think they went into Baum Walker and won game one, I think shows you a lot about who they are. I mean, going into Baum Walker and trying to win game one, when you have to face Zach Root and Gabe Gakel, I know Zach Root obviously didn't pitch well, but like, just like, I think the intimidation factor, not for Tennessee, but just of who Arkansas is and how they play at home. And, they flipped the schedule a little bit on the rotation side with Marcus Phillips going game one and then Liam Dorr getting his normal rest, which I think was really good for him. But also I think because of last week having a long outing and, that worked out really well. And I thought Marcus Phillips did a really good job considering if you look at his stat, 3 Ks and 4 in the third and short outing, 7 hits, but I thought he did a really good job of kind of limiting as much as possible this Arkansas lineup. But I think you didn't see quit from Tennessee. You really didn't. They put up 3 in the 9th inning in game one. They fought, I feel like, the entire way. It just felt like it was Arkansas's weekend. Even if they lost game one, it was like, you can't count this Arkansas team out to win 2 in a row playing at home in the way that they did. And, they get short starts out of everybody. Everybody, Chris. Zach Root goes 2 in the third. Aiden Jimenez goes 2 in a third. Gage Wood goes 3 innings. Sorry, Zach Root goes 3 2/3. But like, no one went 4 innings. And these are like your starters. And you have Landon Bottle-Cheese, who has been a starter. And with how they kind of did the TBA for, game 1, game 3, and then game 2 was TBA, obviously. And Bottle-Cheese goes in 2 in the third. It was just such a weird week. And I think Arkansas just took advantage and really did the little things right. And obviously executed and played well at home. They've had some big innings, some big pops. Helfrich had the grand slam. That was a 46-degree launching, or maybe the highest home run you might see. And it felt like the accumulation of Arkansas season this weekend, being battle tested, playing so well against top teams and top talented teams and winning at home. And they did that and wrapped up the regular season in that way, the fashion that they wanted to, against a really good Tennessee squad, even though they're struggling, a really good Tennessee squad that's super talented, and won their series at home in front of Baum Walker, in which they're going to be playing in front of them a long time in this postseason if they keep winning.
Yeah, I think, Harrison, you and I both expected Arkansas to play their best brand of baseball at home. There's a reason it's so hard to go into the hog pen and win a series. Obviously, Tennessee found that out the hard way. Back to the note, Harrison, of the rubber match woes, if you will. The last time Tennessee won a Game 3 rubber match to clinch a series was March 20th through 22nd when they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. They lost all of the other ones. They did have a Sunday they won, but it was to sweep South Carolina, so obviously it was not a rubber match. Beginning April the 4th through the 6th against A&M, they did not win one. So, that just kind of goes to show the adversity they dealt with. And obviously, I texted you this morning the really interesting quote that Tony Vitello had on one of the local radio stations there. He said, quote, "I do think it's an emotional team. They get a little down, and we just don't have enough firepower or the right mentality to come back." Now, whether he's sending a message or he's just being brutally honest, I do think that's quite telling, and you do have to kind of wonder. I'm sure they still have a lot of confidence, but that really wears on you to lose those rubber matches like that over and over and over and over. So Tennessee going to be really interesting to watch where they are mentally as we go into the postseason.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
They've been struggling with it feels like the second half of the season long for Tennessee. And yes, the whole controlling the run game, but I think just leaving guys on base in situations which they have proven, past years and, for the first half of the season, not to, do that as much. They left 11 on in game 1, 10 on in game 2. and 9 runners on base in game 3. In the SEC, it's hard to win games, let alone on the road, let alone against a top, 16, top 8 team in the country, and try to win a series, honestly.
Yeah. Which it's crazy. Before we get off this one, Harrison, Tennessee still finishes this regular season with 40-plus wins, and they go 16-14 in conference play. But it feels like it's the most underwhelming 40-win season and 16-win conference season that I can recall. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just it feels weird. It feels strange. They got off that hot start. And
if it was like, they win, like, if, let's say the last 5 series they had, it was, win series, lose series, win series, like,
right.
Maybe a little bit different conversation. It's just kind of the slide that it's been. But, I mean, that's just part of the SEC. Some scheduling things, too. They played really good teams. They played a really good LSU at the box. They played a, red-hot Auburn in a weird weekend, rain, doubleheader, everything. That Auburn, obviously, is a top talented team in the country and go to host a regional as well. And then you play, at Arkansas, you play A&M, who's the hottest team in the country, for 2-3 weeks. It's just, I think that needs to be taken into consideration, into, facts too. That doesn't show up in the box scores, but, kind of, I think has helped mold Tennessee into who they are this season so far and who they're going to be going to the postseason. And, things can change once the postseason comes around because wins don't matter.
The new season beginning, no doubt. Again, Arkansas taking 2 of 3. Big series dub for Dave Van Horn's club. Harrison, let's go down to Gainesville, Florida. The Florida Gators, they take 2 of 3 against Alabama. Again, you talk about the differences in the vibe and the feeling of how you finish a season. Florida, Harrison, goes from 1-11 in conference play to 15-15. Kudos to Kevin O'Sullivan and his club for digging themselves out of what felt like an impossible hole.
They win their last 6 series.
Yeah, won their last 6 series in a row. And you mentioned it started, obviously, with that Mizzou series at home. They win that one, and they never really looked back. And you think about, too, what they did, with the injuries. Luke Heyman goes out over the weekend. We obviously know they don't have Colby Shelton. They're missing so many of their top guys. And they had to burn a red shirt. They had to have a guy play, had to burn a red shirt. I think the kid, talking to them, he wanted to play, but, they were forced to go that direction. It was either that or put a pitcher in somewhere. They're not going to do that.
Hey, pitchers are athletes too. We know that.
They're athletes too, but, they had to find something that would work. And they did. Give them credit. The legend of
the bullpen catcher in. Burn him.
Somebody. Yeah, whoever it takes. Harrison, the legend of Aiden King continues to grow. He dazzled yet again in Game 3. What a season for him as a true freshman. I think Brody Donay is getting hot at the right time, had a big swing of the bat in Game 3, and obviously we know about the power. I could have swept. Sloppy defense and those walks. Billy Barlow, just 12 straight balls, gets pulled from the game, unable to find the strike zone. They did have a late comeback, but obviously it was not enough, and give Bama credit, obviously, for taking advantage. But I really thought a big part of this weekend, Harrison, was Florida's bullpen out-dueling the Bama bullpen. You had guys like McNeely and Jake Clemente and some others that stepped up and came in.
Rollin went really well over 2 2/3.
Shut the door. Really shut the door. And I think compared to what you got from if you're a fan of the Crimson Tide, what you got from your bullpen, it left you desiring some things. So, Harrison, thoughts on this series? Thoughts? I think the biggest takeaway here, I don't want to speak for you, but I just don't know how the takeaway is not this Florida Gators team and what they were able to get themselves to. You mentioned the stat many times. A team that started out 2-10 or worse in conference play has never made the postseason until now, because Florida's an absolute lock, obviously, and they've even gone from the 3-seed line to the 2-seed line. So, heck of a season down there in Gainesville, fighting through all those injuries.
Yeah, and Chris, you think about it, let's say Florida goes on a deep run in Hoover. Who says they aren't on the hosting bubble? I mean, honestly,
there's a lot to play for them from that standpoint. You're right. It's possible. It's the door is cracked at minimum. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was accumulation, I think, of the offensive, juggernaut that we've seen them be at times, really kind of mold back into shape of, the talent that they have in producing in the box. But then also, like you said, the bullpen was so good. And I mean, obviously, you put 4 runs in 2 innings on Carson Osmer, the SEC leader in saves, and he threw 50 pitches in Game 2, and he's done for the series. You don't have to face that elite and one of the best arms in the SEC more than once after you tag him for 4 and 2 innings. I mean, it was just impressive to see kind of how the guts of Florida has turned into the glory that the second half of their season has been. And it's been predicated on the backs of Coach Kevin O'Sullivan and the phenomenal job he's done. I think has to be SEC Coach of the Year. This has to be his toughest. I mean, toughest regular season as a whole. I mean, I think it's going to be either Kevin O'Sullivan or, Jim Slosnagle or Butch Thompson. It's going to be one of those three. And I think you can make it a phenomenal case for each of the three. But I definitely think Kevin O'Sullivan, I think this is probably his most adverse year in a regular season that he's had his coaching career at Florida. I think it's arguable for sure. And it's been predicated on, overcoming injuries, overcoming, guys just struggling. We've seen guys on their team struggle a season, and then coming back from injury, guys stepping up in the meantime when they needed to, and, trying to figure out what their identity was. And that was the first half of the season. The second half was just, like I said, guys coming back and stepping up. And, you have Liam Pearson, who has been just kind of a staple of this team in the rotation, had his ups and downs. Mm-hmm. He gives you, an opportunity in game one. It gives up 5 runs in 5 innings, but he gives you an opportunity, just gives you some length, and the bullpen shuts it down behind him. Pierce Kapala, who is back and feels like better than ever. 10 Ks in 3 2/3. Obviously, like you said, the Billy Barlow just kind of unable to command the zone whatsoever, it feels like, in losing it, but just, next man up. That's what it's been for Florida all season long. And then Aiden King, the importance of his role, I think, cannot be said enough for, I guess, holding the starting pitching rotation together as much as he's been able to and as much as he can, and to do so as a freshman, a true freshman, and do so in the SEC. He has been, it feels like, as solid as you could ask of any freshman in any role across the SEC.
Yeah, and it's given them the ability, too, to move Jake Clemente to the bullpen, which has been a huge shot in the arm.
Exactly. So, and then you have Luke McNeely really stepping up, I think, the last couple of weeks as well. And it's been, I don't think there's a more battle-tested team in the country than Florida that knows their identity, who they are. And, they're still banged up. Like you said, they lose Luke Heyman. Was it a fractured wrist or hand?
Yeah, it's unfortunate his season comes to an end. That's
a
brutal blow.
Exactly. And you do this without, Kyle Jones, I believe,
Abe Curlin's out as well.
He was out at the beginning of the season. And, you don't have Colby Shelton right now. I don't know the status on that necessarily, but you got guys that just, it's like I said, it's the most battle tested team in the SEC, I think, let alone the country, for what they've been able to do with how they started and the injuries they've overcome and where they are now.
Yeah, no, gritty, gutsy, all those adjectives you can use. That's what this Florida team is right now. Heck of a series win. Obviously, they take game 1 in dramatic fashion. Game 2, they drop that one, but game 3, win that big rubber match, like you said.
Yeah, and you had several guys homer on their senior day.
Ty Evans and Brody Donay. Yeah, that was a cool moment. So
Bobby Bowser, I think, what was it, his home run record too?
Yeah,
I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe you are correct with that.
Yep.
I now wonder too. The debate will rage on now and begin. The Alabama Crimson Tide, did they do enough to earn a hosting bid? I think the latest projections, they are on the outside looking in of that. Again, they're another team where a big week in Hoover, same as kind of Florida, really, a big week in Hoover could push them over the edge. Right now on the outside looking in.
And I think we should talk about, obviously, the Alabama aspect of it too. Like, I think they have a lot of talent on their team, obviously, in the lineup, and then the pitching staff with Zane Adams and Riley Quick, who I think been really, really more impressed with the past couple of, games of his starts of the season so far. And, he gives it 2 over 5 innings, 6 hits, 7 Ks against this Florida team who's just been red hot, one of the hottest teams in the country, and, giving him a chance, and especially after game 1 in which, Tyler Fay struggles. And I just don't know if they can – I'm just really curious about how Alabama approaches Hoover in the postseason, just starting pitching-wise, and then – bullpen-wise outside of Osmer. It's why that I just haven't loved, picking Alabama in the past couple weeks. It's just like the lack of confidence I have in how the rotation kind of looks on the outside going in, and then obviously on the inside, but then just the piece around that and the, the production of the lineup that's kind of been so hit or miss, it feels like the past, few weeks. And granted, you play well at home, you have a huge win against Georgia in a series after you get blown your doors off in game 1. And it's just so, the inconsistencies for me is what I think is going to hold Bama back and not allow them to, win series like this in a rubber match when, or, go deep in Hoover or go deep in the postseason with just so many of these pieces that just, the floor and the ceiling are so far apart, it feels like, and it's tough for Bama to, be successful as much as they want to when that is the case.
Yeah, inconsistent is a very good way to describe them. I think they're a dangerous team going in the postseason, but to your point, Harrison, the inconsistencies could be the thing that very well holds them back as well. So going to be interesting to see what they get moving forward. Harrison, let's go to Swayze, Oxford, Mississippi, where the Ole Miss Rebels take down Auburn 2-1. They take the series, and this was one, Harrison, going in the weekend. I told you, it scared me, and it played out in a way in which it justified my concerns and justified my fears going in, because Swayze is still one of the toughest places to play in college baseball. The Rebels offense exploded. They scored 32 runs in 3 games. Hunter Elliott was as good as he's been all season against a really good Auburn lineup. I think a very underrated Auburn lineup. Judd Udemark had a 7 RBI game on Saturday. And, the Ole Miss Rebels, I think, Harrison, we have a conversation now. Did Ole Miss do enough to lock up a hosting bid and have postseason baseball at Swayze? And then for Auburn, obviously a team that, I certainly last week I'm still high on, but obviously put them number 1 in my power rankings. And they just go and show that it's hard to win on the road, especially against a quality team like an Ole Miss that you and I talked about. They're kind of like what we just said about Alabama. The floor and the ceiling, I think you could argue, are pretty wide apart. But when they reach closer to that ceiling, it's a really, really darn good team. And I think they showed that over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And they showed you have to go on the road and play in the SEC and how hard that is to do so, let alone like a venue like Swayze with the Swayze crazies out there. And just the last regular season series, anything can happen. It feels like with any series, any team, and doing that when you have to go up against guys like Hunter Elliott on a Friday, on a game 1, on a Thursday, it's like you're never out of the fight. Like Ole Miss will always have a chance in that game 1 when Hunter Elliott's on the mound, and they obviously did so in game 1. And when you get to Cam Tilley, like Ole Miss did, I mean, yes, he goes 5 innings, but it kind of is one of those situations for me. It's which, all right, how do we want to approach the bullpen the rest of the game when Hunter Elliott's on like this? Going 4 hits. No earned. And then you're like, all right, we got Sam Dutton in game 2. And it's like, Ole Miss gets to him in 3 innings, 7 earned. It's like, all right, Ole Miss might sweep the series because their offensive explosion just, I don't want to say against not elite pitching, but it's, I think it's a different level than, facing guys like Jared Spencer, for example, Kyson Witherspoon, Aiden King, or, like Hunter Elliott. Obviously, Riley Maddox, just the ups and downs of his outings and not knowing what you get is going to put you in a tough spot. But when you're able to overcome that and swing it the way Ole Miss did at home, because it feels like they play just so well at home. I mean, they still got out hit by Auburn, but they just made the most of opportunities. And then luckily was able to hold off Auburn's offense and come back late. They put up 2 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th, and 3 in the 9th. Like, that's just gutsy, I think, from Ole Miss. And that's kind of, I think, what Ole Miss's season has been, just kind of gutsy performances or just kind of missing opportunities in like slight fashions. But it's a team that I think is also really battle tested. Like I said, you said, with a high ceiling and high floor range, not knowing exactly what you're going to get, except for, usually a very competitive or a really strong start from Hunter Elliott. And it's just, can the offense produce enough? And I think doing so on the road is more of a question than doing so at home, because we've seen them do it at home. It feels like throughout the entire season. But when you have guys in their lineup, like, I mean, Isaac Humphries, who I think is another underappreciated name in that lineup. Mitchell Stanford's obviously another underappreciated name. Will Furness as well. I mean, Judd Umark's the heart and soul, I think, of center of that offensive production. And, he proved it this weekend, I think. And it's just, can you continue to put the pieces together and play like this throughout the rest of the season? Because Ole Miss has proven us they can play like this against these elite teams time and time again. But they also prove it's like they've struggled against elite teams. They struggled against teams that we feel like they should beat. It's just, how do you put the pieces together in the postseason and, keep those pieces working together and playing your best ball when it matters most? And that's what Ole Miss did this weekend, and are looking to take that into the Hoover and then obviously the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think certainly over this weekend, Harrison showed what they are capable of.
Exactly.
When it is all clicking. There's no doubt. By the way, latest postseason projections from the folks over at D1 Baseball. I believe this is as of yesterday. Ole Miss on that 2 seed line. They've got them going right now to Hattiesburg, Mississippi for the Southern Miss Regional.
Not bad.
You talk about the toxicity in that building. My goodness, that would be an electric showdown. Again, Ole Miss another.
Pete, baby.
I mean, pack the Pete. Ole Miss another team, though, Harrison, we talk about as, who knows, a deep run in Hoover. If you're still playing on Friday or Saturday, that might be enough. You can add 3 or 4 more wins to your resume. Obviously, Auburn sits right now projected as a top 8 national seed, I think, safely in as a top 8. So, again, Ole Miss, big series win. They take 2 or 3, really take it to the Auburn Tigers. Harrison, that being said, let's keep it moving. Let's go to Norman, Oklahoma. Listen, we called for Oklahoma fans to pack out L. Dale Mitchell. I thought it was a pretty good crowd, pretty good atmosphere.
They said it was sold out.
Said it was sold out. Very intense weekend, obviously. Oklahoma gets that big Game 2 win. You're thinking to yourself, okay, we're going to see Texas drop a third straight series. They would not be denied as Texas gets bragging rights over OU. They take 2 of 3, winning that rubber match on Saturday. Obviously, we talked about it on Friday Night Spikes a few days ago, but the Horns do, Harrison, win the SEC regular season title. And by the way, they win it comfortably. They won it by 2 games. Arkansas finishes in second, 2 games behind. So heck of a season once again for Jim Schlossnagle, that entire team, that entire coaching staff. Hell of a job. And, you mentioned Coach of the Year awards, Harrison. I do think it's probably going to be Jim Schlossnagle that gets it, just because realistically, Texas, by most folks, was picked to finish anywhere from
5th to 9th.
Yeah, 5th to 9th, 6th to 8th. I was going to say something like that, sort of just middle of the pack. And not only are they better than the middle of the pack, they win the entire conference, regular season title at least. So heck of a season down in Austin, but again, they take 2 or 3. Oklahoma loses. Kyson Witherspoon start again. We talked about how important that was. Again, the Sooners do steal Game 2, but they do get to Max Grubbs in that game, which I thought was interesting. And obviously great bounce back by Texas on the road, especially after back-to-back tough weekends, Harrison, where again, mentally, is there any doubt that starts to creep in? Thought it was a really, really good job in Game 3 to lock down that series. Your thoughts on the Horns taking 2 of 3 from the arch rival Sooners?
Yeah, I thought it was important, obviously, stopping the bleeding of which the struggles that they've had the past few weeks compared to their season as a whole. And kind of like, how do you want to end the season? We have a chance to go into the SEC in year 1 with so many new pieces in every form and fashion and win the SEC. We were this close, and it's kind of slipping away. It feels like almost for, I think, a lot of Texas fans, more so than the players and the staff. But the talent and the pieces they had, and they've had to overcome their fair share of injuries too throughout the year. You lose Jared Spencer, your Friday guy, one of the best, I think, starters in the SEC as a whole. And you go on the road into what turned into be, I think, a more hostile environment than most people are expecting. I still don't think it's obviously kind of bottom half of the SEC. Sorry, Oklahoma fans, it just is right now. I think there's a lot of passion for Oklahoma baseball. It's only going to continue to grow and develop. And, I think they're going to continue to renovate and put more, money and more support into that program. Now being in the SEC as well, I think they're going to have to keep up with the arms race that it is, Chris. And you got, you have a chance to take 2 from a rival, like you said, with the Game 2 win and how they played in that game, I think, as a whole, and what that kind of meant to them, because it was just a fashion in which another team in the middle of the pack, the SEC, shows you how they can play and just how wide it feels like the ceiling and floor are for Oklahoma. And I know we keep saying that for these teams, but we talked about preseason.
These middle of the pack teams, it's very true. We talked
about it preseason, Chris. I said the difference between 5th in the SEC and 11th is probably going to be 3 games, if not 4 max. I think it was 3 games. At least 6 to 11 was 3 games. And you have guys like, Cade Crossan, who can go out and, he gives up 6 earns over 4 2/3, but he shows you the firepower and the arsenal he has going 10 Ks and gives you an opportunity. And you have, Reed Hensley come in there and shut things down for over 3 innings. And you have Dylan Crooks, who has a huge bounce back outing after Game 1, and how Texas got to him hard. I mean, he gave up 3 runs, 2 earned in that Game 1, and then you're bouncing back, and it's like, all right, I'm surprised they're going to him here. He comes with a huge save, his 13th of the year. I mean, it was just, I was impressed with that from Oklahoma, but also the fact for Texas to go in there and take care of business in a rubber match and do so, I think, kind of the way they did. It felt more handily throughout the game. Once it got to that, 7th inning, they put 3 up, 7, 2 up in the 8th. It's just like, here's the knife, here's the back, just stabbing it, twisting and turning is what it felt like. Hey, we're Texas, we're in the SEC, so are you guys now, but this is our crown, and we're not letting anything spoil that. They're not going to let the Sooners do that, especially playing on the road too. I mean, obviously they would have loved to do that at Dish Falk, but I think it's just a momentum factor for Texas going into the postseason, going to the SEC tournament. Granted, they don't need to do anything in the SEC tournament. It's going to be interesting, and we'll talk about that obviously on our preview about how teams approach that and what that looks like. But you get guys like Max Ballou back. Yeah, he goes 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts in Game 3 and a walk, but it's like you're getting him comfortable in the box. Coach Slauson will talk about how important it was to get him at bats and get him ready before, Hoover before the postseason. And so I think that's only going to benefit you. I mean, he goes 1 for 5 with 3 RBIs in game 1. Like, he's like, all right, imagine bringing this piece back, the 2024 Big 12 Player of the Year, and just kind of a core soul piece of this Texas lineup, and the power and the presence that he has in the dugout, in the box with a bat in his hand. Super important for him. Obviously, the home run in the 9th inning of game 1, I think, was insane. You're just like, all right, Max is back, right? And then you have the arm farm and the pitching staff that goes along with it. Like, Texas, no matter what they do in the SEC tournament, they're going to be a team that I think is going to have such an advantage playing at home in Dish Falk with the roster talent they have that plays at such a high floor, maybe the highest floor of any team in the SEC. And Texas is poised for a deep postseason run.
They are, and I'm really curious, Harrison, moving forward, what the pitching rotation will look like. I think that's probably my biggest question for them moving forward.
Yeah.
Obviously, they shuffled some things around this past weekend with the series starting on Thursday. I do think that, it was probably the right decision. Try some different guys out, but I'm just very, very curious, obviously, how they piece it together. You mentioned the return of Max Ballou. I think that's going to be really, really big, especially if he can be at his normal form or pretty close to it. So it was good to see him back on the field. But, yeah, no, big weekend for Texas. Anytime you go on the road and you beat your rival, I think it's a successful weekend.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think that's a really important piece you mentioned, just kind of the rotation. And, do they stay with Cade Bing, who's had 10 starts? He's got 40 innings under his belt with 12 appearances, obviously 10 starts. The guy that has the next most starts, after that's Jason Flores at 5. He's got 14 appearances but 5 starts. And maybe they gave Grayson Saunier another start. He's got 1, but I mean, he's talented enough to do so. He pitched really well out of the pen, I thought. And, he's got 21 innings, but that jump from the bullpen to the rotation is – people don't understand how hard it is to do that, let alone starting rotation to the bullpen. I think it's harder to go from bullpen to starter. And we've seen, like we talked about with Florida, Jake Clemente, guys like that do. We've had, other guys go in the bullpen, Gabe Gakel, and just the comfortability he looks like he has more in the bullpen. That's going to be, I think, the most intriguing storyline for Texas throughout the postseason.
And Harrison, final note on Oklahoma, once again, goes without saying. Kyson Witherspoon, 6 1/3, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, a walk, 8 strikeouts. Again, was it his best start of the season? No, but still, when your guy goes into the – when your guys goes into the 7th inning and only gives up 2 earned runs, I mean, it's so obvious to say with OU, but they just have to, like, going into the postseason, you tell me if they're winning Kyson starts, I'll tell you how deep they went.
Exactly.
They've got to be able to take those games because we know the rest of the rotation is very shoddy at best, very inconsistent at best, I would say. So got to find a way to win those.
And you just need a little more consistent production throughout the lineup, not just 1 or 2 guys. Like it feels like they just have only 1 or 2 guys that are producing everything in a given day almost.
Yeah. Again, another one of those middle of the pack SEC teams that could make a run, could have a very short stay in the postseason. We'll see. But good on Texas. 2 of 3, they win the series. Harrison, before we move further, let's tell everybody about our friends over at FanDuel, because as always, we're brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. And by the way, going to have a lot of gambling chatter this week with the SEC tournament, with the college baseball postseason getting underway, because our friends over at FanDuel will have all those lines, all those props, everything that you can play on. And guys, the wait is over. Baseball season's finally here, and you can start the season strong on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now FanDuel is celebrating the return of baseball by giving new customers $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel's got so many ways for you to get in on the action, from hits to steals to home runs. They got a lineup filled with all your favorite bets, or if pitching is more of your thing, FanDuel's got a deep bullpen of bets from strikeouts to shutout innings. So when you place your first bet, it can be on almost anything. And if it hits, you'll get $250 in bonus bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official partners of Major League Baseball. Must be 21 and up and present in select states for Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and up and present in D.C. First online at real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued. It's non-withdrawable bonus batch. Expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts are called 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In New York, Harrison, let's keep it moving. Let's go to Athens, Georgia. The Georgia Bulldogs take 2 of 3 from Texas A&M. We asked the questions, Harrison, did this team have any fight left? I think they showed there's still some fight there, and I think good on them for showing up to Athens. Everybody essentially expected them to get the shit kicked out of them. They show up, force a rubber match. I don't think many of us saw that coming, but they do. But again, give Georgia credit. The Dogs hit 5 home runs in 3 games, obviously coming home, feeding the trees. You know, Georgia, we know how good they are on the home field. And a tip of the cap, Harrison, we love to play the tip of the cap game. I don't know if anybody deserves it more than Justin Lampkin for that gem he spun in game 2. Complete game shutout, 15 punchies, as you like to say. I mean, that dude, against one of the best lineups in the country, that dude was electric, but obviously it's Georgia taking the final series of the season, taking down Texas A&M, best 2 of 3, and probably, definitely, I could argue, locking up a top 8 national seed. Your thoughts on the weekend in Athens?
I was impressed with Texas A&M as a whole. And not to take anything away from Georgia, I'll get to that in a second, but I think just how you respond to what might be the worst experience / series in Texas A&M baseball history, when you not only lose to Missouri, but you get swept by Missouri, who hasn't won a conference game. They were 0-24 at that point, and how they looked in game 2 and game 3 of that series at home too. And then you go on the road to face what's going to be probably a top 8 national seed. If not, you know what, they're going to be hosting a regional, the Georgia Bulldogs, and how well they play and swing it at home. And you go on the business trip, you charter over to Athens, and you, I think, fight. It felt like every game, and how in they were every game. It felt like, Chris. I mean, they were close to winning the series. If not, there's opportunities. We're not going to say, you know, this or this happened, but like there were situations you could see like they had chances to win all these games, like game 1 and game 3 specifically.
Yeah, I mean, a week after getting swept by Mizzou,
and nobody counted on them.
It definitely, that series was a lot more competitive than I expected. If we're being
especially honest. After your ace Ryan Prager gives up 7 earned in 2 2/3.
Yeah, he was not good. I mean, that's kind of he didn't have a great season, Harrison. If we're being totally honest,
and it felt like he was the front runner for SEC Pitcher of the Year because of how good he was last year, and rightfully so. But it's just like, how do you repeat that, right? And like when you have to face this lineup like Georgia, and like facing lineups in the SEC as much as, you know, Ryan Prager has, and the depths that he's going, you know, last season, he's seeing these lineups 3 times. I know a lot of transfer portal guys, a lot of new young guys in lineup, but like coaches, you know, they know how to pitch guys. The more that you see them, the more that they can adapt and, you know, overcome and try to game plan around. How do we execute? How do we, you know, get to this pitcher? You know, and I think part of that's been like running his pitch count up early. I mean, you think about it that way, but like the way that A&M bounced back in game 2 with Justin Lampkin just saying, I got this, just putting it on his shoulder, 3 hits, shutout, 15 Ks, no walks, 121 pitches. I commend them for letting him go back out there for the 9th for sure. Think about how much and how well it sets up for game 3, saving the bullpen, not using anyone. And that was after Georgia got a pretty good start out of Brian Curley, going 5 innings, 3 earned. I mean, it was just like in that game 3, it's like, all right, well, A&M might sneak in here and take this series. Like, seriously. And then, you know, Miles Patton gives you a quality start as well. Almost like technically a quality start, 4 1/3, but he gives you a quality outing in which you can count on. You know, obviously the middle of the inning, the middle of the game when, you know, Georgia just takes advantage and feeds the trees with Slade Alford, who just, I think, loves feeding the trees. He loves how much Wes Johnson has to buy new baseballs. and then obviously, you know, Hunter, and, you know, it felt like Zaborowski. I mean, I don't want to say had a quiet week, but it just felt like the long balls just were so long for Georgia, and they felt so important. Don't forget, I mean, maybe Foley is a bomb box. Maybe. I think it's definitely an arguable case this series, let alone the entire season, with how we've kind of seen the Foley play. I mean, A&M came to swing it, and they slugged it, Chris. I mean, Gavin Cash, Bear Harrison. I mean, Royo, who's had an unbelievable second half of the season. Bear Harrison. I mean, just Harrison, just great name, obviously. But, I mean, I thought he played outstanding this week. I thought he did. And I was really impressed with how A&M played on the road at Foley, because they're going to have to go play on the road in Hoover. And then if they somehow go deep I think could sneak in and play on the road. And this team's too talented to, I think, I don't want to say end the season this way, but I don't see them going one and done either in Hoover because they're that talented. They're obviously going to have a tough test, but we'll get to that when we get to it. But I think Georgia's just being poised and, holding the line in game 3 and responding after getting, shut out in game 2 in a complete game, and just how they responded throughout the game. It wasn't just that one big inning, which we've seen Georgia rely on a ton. They just kind of applied pressure, and really got to A&M's bullpen. And I think I was really impressed with that from Georgia's standpoint, ending the season on a high note, especially after losing the series at Alabama after the monumentally blown out game 1 when they had. Just responding for Georgia. And obviously, they're going to be playing at home a lot this postseason. They love doing it. They play, I think, incredibly, let alone the scores and the records. They just look like they play way more comfortable and loose at home. And I mean, Chris, I think their records, they've lost 4 games at home. It's 3-4. They're 10-10 on the road.
Yeah, 29-4.
29-4
at home. Yeah, 10-10 on the road. So
yeah.
I mean, listen, there's few teams in college baseball. I think you could probably throw LSU in that convo, maybe Texas as well, but Georgia's certainly one of those. There are very few that enjoy playing at home as much as the Dogs do.
There's so many other teams around the SEC, the top, talent teams that play so much better on the road.
It is interesting. I'm really encouraged by Georgia's starting rotation. I know.
I was going to say that too. I just think when you say Kyson, they have to win Kyson start for Oklahoma. How does Texas kind of do the pitching staff? How does Georgia? And we continue to ask this because it's continued to be the case. I mean, you got to. Yeah, they're going to have a bye in Hoover, but then
let's see. There he is.
You're going to have a bye in Hoover, but when you get to hosting a regional, it's like you're going to throw off, and it's like you got to win your ace to start. Whether it's JT, because I don't think Golson goes 1 out. Like maybe just give Brian Curley the ball.
Yeah, he's pitched well.
Your game 1 ace.
Yeah, Leighton Finley's pitched well. Goldstein got roughed up a little bit, but I thought Quinn and Zeldin in relief.
Finley looked much better.
Yeah,
really sharp in these 6 innings. I mean, really impressed with him. Colton Smith looked obviously good in relief, like you said. It's just that's gonna be the thing for Georgia because we know they're gonna hit it well at home. They're gonna slug it. They're gonna feed the trees. The kudzu is gonna be packed. Just are they gonna have enough pitching depth? We've said that beginning of the season, Chris, and everyone that is a fan of Georgia baseball would not shut up about it. We'll figure it out. Like all this, right? It has come down to the last week in the regular season, and now going into the postseason. And we still don't know what Georgia's going to do. And we said Georgia floor is the hitting, their offense. Georgia's ceiling is what the pitching staff gives them. And we still don't know what that is.
I will give Wes Johnson credit, though, because I feel like from where we were at the start of conference play to now, that pitching staff has made incredible leaps and bounds from where it was. I mean,
it still feels middle of the SEC.
I mean, it is. It's. I don't think there's any secret. This is a team carried by their offense, but I'm just saying from where they were to where they are, I do give Wes Johnson a lot of credit. But I agree with you. If Georgia gets to Omaha, because they'll be playing at home all postseason, if they do make a run to Omaha, yes, we'll be probably talking about the bats, but I think we'll be talking about the arms more than anything. About wow, look at the way the arms have stepped up, built off some of the successes they had throughout the season. Like I said, guys like Curley, guys like Leighton Finley, some of these other guys. I think that's where the conversation is going to be. And that's going to be why, because you know as well as I do, Harrison. And again, we'll talk more when we break down the SEC tournament. We get to postseason stuff. You got to be able to swing it, but this is where your pitching shines. Like if you can't spin the baseball, you don't have a great shot of advancing. You got to have guys step up on the mound and put some things together for you.
I mean, I'll say right now, Georgia goes to Omaha, it's going to be the backs of the bullpen. Yeah, it's going to be the backs of JT Quinn, Brian Zeldin, and who else? Zach Harrison, Colton Smith. 100%.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
Whether it's an 8-4 game or a 3-1, 3-2 game, it's going to be the backs of the bullpen.
Yeah, at some point, you got to go out there and spin it and spin a gem, and we'll see if Georgia can do it. But either way, they take 2 of 3, I would say, essentially lock up a top 8 national seed in Harrison. We do have to mention Texas A&M's regular season, 28-25 overall, 11-19 in conference play. The postseason successes can make you forgive a lot. So if A&M goes and wins the SEC tournament, maybe that's what we're talking about, and we're not talking about, I would argue, Harrison, one of the most disappointing regular seasons by any team in SEC baseball history. when you think about what the expectations were coming in. So not to beat a dead horse, we already know it, but pretty wild now that the dust is settled and you look at that overall record and you're just like, man, I mean, if I'd have predicted that, you'd have called me crazy, right? I mean, nobody picked it.
Hey, freezing cold takes, Chris, would have had that clipped and ready in the drafts and would have left it there.
They would have left it there for sure. There's the scorching hot takes account would have had.
Well, like you said, Chris, if they go on a run in Hoover and somehow make the postseason, which I think is not out of the question, obviously outside of winning the tournament, it's postseason can make you forget, or at least in this case, I think, kind of hide the regular season a little bit. At this, like,
I mean, think about Florida last year. They made the College World Series. I don't think anybody cared they had a lackluster regular season.
Hey, in the wise words of Moneyball, no one cares except for the last.
Yeah,
was it? No one cares.
Did you win your last game? Did you win your last game?
The last game of the season.
Yeah, we'll see. It's just a wild season for them down in College Station. Let's keep it moving, Harrison. Go to Columbia, South Carolina, where the LSU Tigers take 2 of 3 from their former head coach, Paul Maneri. Obviously, the weekend for the Bayou Bengals got off to a rough start as they lost game 1 on a walk-off wild pitch. And it was their guy, Zach Cohen, on the bump, gets away from him. South Carolina scores. They win it. You have the shot of Paul Maneri, very stoic. I think you could tell he was trying to kind of keep the emotions together. But, you know what it meant for him. LSU does get the last laugh, though. They win the series against their former head coach. Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson. I mean, Harrison, we're not really surprised. At this point, they did exactly what we thought they would do. They dazzled the best, I would argue, maybe 1-2 combo in the country when you think about the quality of those two guys. Bear Jones had a big game. He comes alive offensively. I think he'd been struggling a little bit of late. Danny Dickinson had a big weekend as well. And then of note, Harrison, LSU number 1. I know there's been some chatter, which I don't get why, because LSU is locked up a top 8 national seed. I don't know why there's
absolutely.
Yeah, there's been some LSU. I don't know if it's like a certain side of LSU fans that are worried about the top 8 national seed conversation. You have nothing to worry about. You literally have nothing to worry about.
It's just LSU fans being LSU fans.
Just being antsy. We said they're antsy, the most antsy fan base in the conference. And I love you in saying that, but they're just a little antsy. It's going to be all right. So LSU a lock for the top 8 national seed in Harrison. South Carolina finishes off the worst SEC season in program history, and 28 overall losses also ties their most losses in a season in program history. Gamecocks go 6-24 in SEC play. Their worst season prior to that was 8-22, I believe. So they set a new bar.
What year was the 8-22 year? Do you have that?
I do not have it in front of me. It'd have to. No, it would have to be like late 90s. I think I think either the year before Ray Tanner got there or his first year. I think that would have been an 8-22 conference campaign. But it's been a very, very long time. So, anyways, your thoughts? LSU takes the series in Columbia.
I don't want to say I was impressed with South Carolina, but I was impressed with kind of how they played and not giving up. It felt like, obviously you win game 1, the style in which it happened. I thought there was a lot of fight in them for sure with the series, more so than I think people thought and expected with, LSU coming to town, how lethal they are on both sides of the ball. But interesting, obviously, with the Thursday through Saturday series, LSU kind of pitches off. They, have Connor Ware start and, Jaden Newt, Chase Shores, and Zach Cohen, like you said, their guy. Those are the two bullpen guys, and Shores shoved as it feels like he always does. And I'm still so high on him. I will be. I think he will be one of the best pitchers in SEC next year. I think he's gonna be a big name. And the way that game ended, it was just LSU let that slip away. LSU gave that one away is what it felt like, and it's to do so. I know how bitter tasting that was for LSU fans to give that to Paul Maneri at South Carolina too on the road.
They were reeling on Thursday night.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, that's not. It was a
sickening.
Baseball.
It was a sickening feeling for sure.
That's just not LSU baseball. But I think the way they responded, and South Carolina's going into game 2, they're we got our guy Jake McCoy in the mound. That's their guy. I think that's probably their best starter by far. And LSU goes, all right, watch this, and tagged him. He goes, we got Cade Anderson in the mound. We were not worried one bit. They lost game 1. I said, all right, I would be shocked if LSU lost the series.
Yeah. Because
they haven't pitched Cade Anderson or Anthony Ianson. And then, Cassandra Evans is going to throw. Chase Shore is going to come back and throw again. And so, they did what they did best. Cade Anderson gives you a quality start, shoves, and then the lineup goes, all right, let's step it up. Here we go, right? And Jared Jones just does what Jared Jones does. He just flattens baseball.
Absolute bomb he hit.
Latins baseballs, and then Ethan Fry has a great game too as well. It's just guys. It's like this just was what LSU baseball is.
Mhm.
Like elite starting pitching, powerful hitting, and a deep lineup. Like it's just what it feels like it is. And then obviously game 3, you talk about how I've said a couple other teams in the SEC, you can't just be one or two guys only producing in a game or being the core of an offense. Like LSU doesn't have that. Like sometimes they do, like it's just one or two guys, just kind of how it falls, but it's a big swing that changes the game. But like Derek Chiari, Jared Jones, Daniel Dickinson, Jake Brown, Stephen Milam all have RBIs in game 3. It's like you can't really pitch around them. And they go do that, prove that on the road with their backs. I don't say backs against the wall, but down 1-0 and 0-1 in a series in which they shouldn't, even be playing in, LSU fans are going to say. But it just goes to show why LSU is so good that, you got to beat them in 2 of the 3 facets of the game with how elite their pitching is, how elite their bullpen is, how good and deep their lineup is, and how clean of defense they play. I mean, it's one of those situations for me that like LSU, like you said, with Georgia, they're going to be playing at home all postseason long. How hard is to play in the box, let alone beat them with Cade Anderson and Anthony Einstein on the hill? I think the best 1-2 punch in the SEC and maybe the country. I don't even know if that's close. Like just on a consistency level, which they probably have the highest floor of any 1-2 punch in the country, highest floor. And so it's one of those things like you're going to be tough beating them, in a regional and beating them twice. And for South Carolina, obviously, you said worst record since when?
It was the worst SEC season in program history. Their worst ever was 8-22 before obviously this season, now 6-24, 28 overall losses in the regular season, ties for the most ever in a season in program.
I mean, and obviously after this, we'll look back and I'll post it. I don't know if you will as well, but of our preseason like predictions and then how it ended up now and what that looks like. And South Carolina, I think obviously a lot worse than we thought they're going to be. And it's tough because I think a lot of changes within the program and just a lot of guys coming in. And obviously you could say that for a lot of teams that like, Texas had a lot of guys coming in. They won the SEC. Look what they did. It's coaching, everything. There's a lot around the program that I think that South Carolina, in order to get back to, I think, upper third of the SEC where they want to get, they have to make monumental changes within the program. And I think that starts with, the leadership, the philosophy, I think is huge. Obviously the commitment NIL wise, I think is going to be huge, but also the type of guys that they go out and get in the portal to change it as fast as possible, but also recruit the style in which they recruit too. And just, it's a massive uphill battle. I'm going to say it might be the biggest uphill battle in the SEC right now for any team because I'm less worried about A&M than I am South Carolina. And I think that says a lot for both.
Well, and you think about it too, like some people might say, well, what about Missouri? But they don't have expectations like a South Carolina does. So it's
their 80s said we haven't invested in baseball like we should. And basically, I don't know if they will.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing. I think Paul Maneri is probably back next year from the people we've talked to. Now, things could change, but just from the rumblings we've heard, I mean, I don't think South Carolina's itching to pay that $5.2 million they'd owe him if they fired him.
Yeah,
so
which crazy. It was 3 years, but also, naming and the name's now Ray Tennerfield and how that's kind of just evolved and grown. But like, I mean, at 28-28, 6-24 in the SEC, I don't think that'll ever be acceptable in any form or fashion for any program outside of Missouri, let alone a South Carolina program that has been at the mountaintop and stayed there for as long as they did, and which is so unbelievably hard to do. Yes, it was 15 years ago, almost like range. It doesn't matter. Like you could say, let's say LSU was in this position. Like, yeah, like we have 8 national titles, but this isn't our expectation. Okay. Maybe they won a bunch, early 2000s. Like that's when you set a standard, Chris, it stays there, I think, for more than 10, 15 years. You could say Alabama baseball in like the 60s or whatever. Like it's part of the ebbs and flow of college baseball and what makes it great in the history and the rivalries and the titles and the stories and the players. But it will never, I think, below middle of the pack in the SEC will never be acceptable for South Carolina. And I agree. I think it's rightfully so. And, I think it's going to take, if I had to guess, to get to that upper third of the SEC, 3 years, 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 to 3 also, because you can flip it really quickly with the portal, but at the same time, when you're as far off as I think they are, right? Well, that's what I'm saying. When you're that far off, I think you got to walk before you can run. When you're talking about getting the top third of the league, it's much. I mean, think about it, top third of the league. You're talking about the top 5 or 6 teams.
That's 18 and 12 right now in the SEC.
Right. So you think about the top 5 or 6 teams. South Carolina is light years away from that right now. So
But I do want to say, and I've talked to an SEC coach that told me 15 wins in the SEC is a really good season.
Yeah, I would agree.
Think about it. I mean, Florida's 15-15. They're a top 20, top 25 team. Like 15 wins is hard in the SEC. This is an SEC coach telling me this directly.
Yeah.
Like 17 wins is a great year.
Mm-hmm.
Texas, granted, just had 22 wins, and you have Georgia's at 18 and Tennessee's got 16. I mean, I really do think 16 is like, if you go over 500 in the SEC, that's a really good year.
Yeah. You're a really good club if you can go over 500 in the conference, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
especially with how much deeper it is now.
Yeah. South Carolina trying to get back to that. Obviously, LSU caps off their regular season, finishing 19-11, 42 wins overall, and finished third in the conference. Just throw it back to 2023, Harrison. The year they won it all, they finished fourth in the SEC. That was with Paul Skeens and them. So we'll see. Anyways, let's keep it. Yeah, go ahead.
Never know. Anything can happen in the postseason.
Anything can happen. Yeah, it's certainly. New season begins. Let's keep it moving, Harrison. Let's go to Nashville, Tennessee. The Vanderbilt Commodores. You talk about a team that's just red hot right now. They beat Kentucky. They sweep Kentucky. And the Doors lock up a top 8 national seed, postseason baseball at the Hawk. And the way they did it, was as thrilling as anybody at any point this season. A pair of walk-off winners on Thursday and Friday. Thursday, it was Braden Holcomb. Friday, it was Vastine hitting a 2-run homer. By the way, after the bullpen gives up the lead in the top of the ninth, Vandy says, hey, no big deal. Jonathan Vastine, bomb, walk him off again. They finish him off in game 3 and sweep. I mean, a really scrappy Kentucky team. I think Kentucky,
we said it would be an underrated series.
Yeah, I think Kentucky kind of is what they are, but that being said, they are difficult. They're a difficult team to play. So Kentucky goes from sweeping last weekend to getting swept this weekend. Harrison, your thoughts on the weekend in Nashville? And again, a red-hot Vanderbilt team that Tim Corbin has, again, now projected in the latest projections, which is crazy to say, the number 3 overall national seed. I'm not sure you or I saw that about a month or so ago, but here we are, Vandy. I mean, capping off one hell of a regular season for them.
Yeah, Chris, and it's all predicated on the pitching staff, obviously, and what they've been able to do this season as a whole.
Your boy Connor Fennell dealt again on Saturday. He came in relief and was awesome.
5 innings in relief. He's 6-0. Obviously, I think I take it with a grain of salt. I don't rely on that stat too much, but when it works, it works. But to come in out of the bullpen and do that after, like I said, how hard is it to go from the bullpen to the starting rotation? To go back and, unbelievable. I think one of the most slept on and underappreciated seasons from a player this year in the SEC.
He was, Harrison, is it fair to say,
transferred in from Dayton?
He wasn't a freshman, but he was kind of like their version of Aiden King.
Yeah.
Like
he felt like a freshman in the league, basically.
Right. But like the way he, I think, held that pitching staff kind of together, became like the linchpin, the way King did down in Gainesville. I think that's the role Connor Fennell kind of played for them.
Yeah. And I think it's also predicated on, we talk about how much Vanderbilt's offense like struggles in the low ceiling it feels like they have. It was so important for them to get to Kentucky starters. Kentucky might have the most slept on starting rotation in the SEC.
Fantastic rotation. Yeah.
Nate Harris, Nick McKay, and Ben Cleaver. I mean, you put up 5 in 4 innings on Nate Harris in game 1. And obviously, with Austin Nye struggling in his start, and just kind of how I think part of that obviously is the Thursday through Saturday series. A lot of teams pitching off. We saw it with LSU, obviously, like we just mentioned, and then having, Connor now come out the bullpen, it's like, God, we got to see a third starter in the bullpen. But you put 5 on Nick McKay in 3 2/3, and then you got to face Ben Cleaver on a game 3. It's like just Vanderbilt overcoming adversity, I think, and just the pitching staff doing exactly what you expect them to do, but the offense never being out of the fight because of how good the pitching staff was. We said that like Vanderbilt's pitching is going to keep them in so many games because of how I think underappreciated the bullpen is because of how elite the starting pitching is. I mean, when you have Miller Green and Sawyer Hawks, I mean, Ethan McElvin's had some really good outings recently. Obviously, he didn't in game 2. But when you have a bullpen like that, and then you throw Connor Fennell just goes 5 and says, "I got the ropes. Like y'all can hang out, have fun, and just do that." And hitting when it matters and timely hitting is going to be so important for Vanderbilt in this series, let alone this season, because of the lack of firepower they have in the box compared to most of the other SEC. To do that in back-to-back games, Chris, in the 9th, I mean, I just think that caps off how Vanderbilt's season, I don't want to say is gone, but just what their season has meant and just how it felt like they've risen slowly throughout. They've been, I don't want to say slept on, but just like so under the radar compared to Arkansas, Texas, LSU, Georgia's noise. And then I think even Florida's second half overshadowed Vanderbilt.
Mhm.
And it's just fascinating to watch. And, it was saying how preseason you weren't really high on Vanderbilt because, the old school style of play, with Tim Corbin, like this doesn't really work anymore. And like, it's clearly working still. I mean, Chris, imagine their offense. I said it last year with Arkansas. I said, going into the beginning of the season, I said, if Arkansas can hit middle of the pack in the SEC, they will find themselves in Omaha. Last year, Arkansas was, I think, second to last in batting average ahead of Missouri only. Arkansas is number one with 316 team batting average. Vanderbilt, and you said they're going to be number 3 national seed, Chris. They are 13th in batting average ahead of South Carolina, Missouri, and Texas A&M. They're batting 268 as a team. And I think they're last in the conference in home runs. They have, 60 home runs. I think it's second to last. South Carolina has 58, or third to last. South Carolina has 58, and Missouri has 52. And Kentucky has 52 as well. So I guess fourth to last, but still like 13th in average and 13th in home runs. And they're going to be a top 8 national seed by a long shot. Like imagine this Vanderbilt offense was 8-9 in middle of the pack in batting. I think that's the one thing I'm worried about. I'm worried about Vanderbilt just not having that clutch factor in the postseason and being what Arkansas was last year.
Yeah. Now, we'll see. I mean, the way they put it together, like I said, man, I saw them obviously end of March, if you will, when they played Arkansas and had some comments about Tim Corbin. And, he proved me wrong and many, many others. Obviously, the way they play, their brand, they won plenty of games this season, locked up a top 8 national seed. 19-11 in conference play sort of speaks for itself. So, heck of a way to close it out. Again, I think Vandy going to be another really, really dangerous SEC team, a team that I don't know if I didn't really see anybody picking Vandy to go to Omaha in the preseason. Certainly they are one of the top contenders from this league to get there. So,
I mean, in Kentucky too, I don't know if you can say it's a letdown season compared to what it was last year. I think that's important to talk about. It's like last year's team for Kentucky was just such I don't want to say anomaly, but reached heights the program has never reached before. It's like, how do you kind of repeat that? How do you, with a lot of new guys filling different roles, and Nick Mingione, and just how much of a wizard of a coach he is, like a different style. It's similar and a different style of team this year than last, but just a scrappy team. Like we said each and every series, it felt like this is a Kentucky team that will always. It feels like it's going to be in the series each week, and a team that might sneak around and beat a lot of teams. They go like you said, sweep at Texas A&M at home, who's playing really good baseball, and then you're playing another incredibly good national seed in Tennessee and Vanderbilt in Tennessee on the road. And, you lose to them. It's just like the ups and downs, like their floor was kind of, 13, 14 in the SEC. I think preseason we looked at it, and like ceiling we put, I think was about, correct me if I'm wrong, 8 or 9 ish range. If that's, I think reasonable. And it's like, nothing blew us away by them, but just like, I think the pitching staff blew me away this season with how impressed I was for Kentucky's pitching staff. Just how under the radar they were and how consistent they had a high floor pitching staff, not a super high ceiling, but a high floor that gave them an opportunity to win games in which they play, which is clean defense, good pitching, and executing the little things like getting a guy on, getting him over, getting him in. And so I'm not going to say it was a bad year, but I mean, it's just the SEC. It's so deep. Someone has to lose, Chris. Not everyone can finish 500 or better in the SEC. Someone's got to be 16th, 15th, 14th, 13th. Like someone has to. And I think it just goes to show that how much different a year can make for certain teams and how deep the SEC is as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think to the Kentucky perspective, Harrison, I know you make Omaha last year. Like you said, that was the exception, not the rule. I mean, literally, it was the first time ever in program history. That alone is –
It was the first time they played in Super, I think, too.
It was the first time they played in – no, you are correct. They had played in a Super before. They had never made it to Omaha. Also, last year was the first time the program ever went to the postseason in back-to-back seasons. Like, think about how crazy that is.
It was probably the first time they won 20 games in the SEC as well.
Yes, and you think about now, they're going to make it 3 straight because they're either going to be a 2 or a 3 seed somewhere, but they are going to be in. And I think Harrison, listen, I think that's a good year for Kentucky baseball. Yeah. Tell me I'm wrong if you think, but I think if you're making the postseason every year, that's you're doing a really damn good job at Kentucky if you're able to, whether you
the
host or
SECU
you don't.
postseason?
Yeah, whether you host or you don't, that's a really good year for Kentucky baseball. That's a good spot for that program to be in. So Nick Mingio's done a great job. By the way, I did want to highlight this, Harrison. Vandy, back to them. Here's what's really impressive about them. They go 19-11 in conference. They didn't play Missouri and they didn't play South Carolina. Think about that. So, I mean, that makes the 19-11 even that much more impressive. And they beat A&M before A&M was still scuffling, but not nearly to the level that, we got further in the season.
I thought that would have been a bounce back,
Vandy played the very best and beat up on the very best to get the 19 wins. So, wildly
they
impressive
played
when you factor that.
Seven ranked series.
Yeah.
So, you think about it, like you said, you play at 25 Auburn, who you lose that series, but they lost in that walk-off in game 3, how close that series was. What that means now, because how good Auburn is, you play number 2 Arkansas, you get swept there, but it's versus number 2 Arkansas. That's just, that's just Arkansas. Like that can happen. You sweep Florida at Florida, struggling during that part of the season. You lose the series in I don't want to say a close fashion, but you lose at number 19 Oklahoma. You sweep number 5 Georgia at home.
Mm-hmm.
You lose the series.
That was kind of the turning point where I think Vandy went from, hey, could be a regional host to the top 8 national seed conversation.
Yeah,
that was kind of the series that really that one kind of has served as their launching point, I think, to this point.
Yeah, even though they lose the series at Ole Miss, they win game 3 blowout fashion, 13-0 in 7 innings. But see what Ole Miss does when they play at home. They play very, very well. That's number 23 in the country at that point. Mm-hmm. You take 2 or 3 versus Alabama, number 18, and then you take 2 or 3 at number 15 Tennessee. I think it's really impressive. Like you said, I didn't really realize that they didn't play South Carolina or Missouri. So
yeah, no, really impressive season by Tim Corbin's club, and of course, again, lock for a top 8 national seed. Kentucky going to be going on the road somewhere this postseason. Harrison, finally, let's close it out. You just mentioned Missouri. Let's go there to Como. Mizzou and Mississippi State did battle. Mississippi State getting the sweep over the Tigers. It was the Dogs' offense that really carried the way. Harrison, they scored 25 runs, I think it was.
25-7 in game 1.
I literally checked the score in game 1, and it was 18-7 maybe. And I didn't check it again, and I look, and I'm like, they scored 25 runs.
They scored 50 runs the entire weekend.
Everybody was hitting. Ace Reese has been named SEC Player of the Week, by the way. He went over the last week. This wasn't just the weekend. Maybe it was. I forget. Did they play a midweekend? It might have just been this weekend. But he went 8 for 12.
They canceled it, remember?
That's right. So this is just this weekend. He went 8 for 12 with 3 doubles, 4 homers, and 6 RBIs and 5 walks. He scored 11 runs and hit a home run in all 3 games at Mizzou. So, just a crazy weekend. Also, by the way, shout out Hunter Hines, who is now your new home run king in Starkville. Tip of the cap to Hunter Hines, the new home run king there in Starkville, Mississippi.
Hey, that's going to live a long time.
It is, no doubt. And Harrison, by the way, I'm not necessarily celebrating this, but we do have to mention it. The under 3.5 on Missouri cashes. They are the first SEC team to not win at least 5 games in a season in conference play, obviously, since the league went to the 30-game schedule in 1996. Harrison, they finished the season 3-27 and 16-38 overall. And it really just, I tell you this, Harrison, not to bring them back in it. It feels like I'm taking a low blow here, but it's got to make you feel even worse as an A&M fan. That Missouri literally finishes this season with 3 SEC wins, and all 3 of them came against you. You know what I mean? It's just it's just the ultimate, one of the weirdest, wildest weekends in the college baseball season when Missouri went to A&M and swept. Either way, though, it's Mississippi State, Harrison, flexing their muscles. Listen, give this team an incredible amount of credit. You fire Chris Lemonis, things are a little bit in a state of disarray. Justin Parker and company hold that thing together. Mississippi State goes on a run. Harrison, they finished 500 in conference play. You were just talking about how impressive that is. Won their last 5 ball games in a row. And again, now they're going to be one of the toughest outs, I think, from the SEC going somewhere on the road this postseason. So really impressive weekend for the Dogs in Como.
What was the date? Do you know that? Or I guess the week that they fired Chris Lemonis?
It
It was right
was
before the Kentucky
a few
series.
weeks ago. Yeah,
It was right before Memphis, right?
Yeah, it was like
So
3 weeks. You know when it was? I can tell you.
right after Auburn.
It was the Monday after the LSU Tennessee series because I got the news on the drive home from Baton Rouge.
So that was right before they played Memphis. They won 18-5. That's what it was.
Yep.
I mean, it's been almost a month, and like the season turnout that they've had.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes to show. I don't want to say that goes to show, but it goes to show like the past few weeks have proven what Mississippi State baseball talent-wise is and has, and how good that like it's got to frustrate Mississippi State fans. I think more so than maybe more so than how the season's ended on such a high note. Like we should have been doing this all year long, with just the talent they have from Ace Reese, who I think I maybe talked about more than most, if not almost everybody covering SEC baseball, and just how insanely talented he is. And I think in one of the most important pieces of this Mississippi State team. And then, you have guys that keep getting better and better, Bryce Chance, like Noah Sullivan, these guys that stepping up around, obviously Hunter Hines too. And, what I think Hunter Hines means to Mississippi State baseball as a whole. And I do want to put the caveat, obviously the asterisk that he did it in 4 seasons?
Yeah. Palmero did it in 3. Yeah.
So still record.
But hey, whatever. There's no asterisks. Yeah. There's no asterisks in the record book.
Yeah. And I don't blame him. And obviously, you go into Como and you do what you should have done, take care of business. I mean, it was the louder fashion I think everyone really expected, or kind of, I don't want to say kept an eye on, but like expected. But the amount of applause and, tip of the cap to Justin Parker for what he's done and night and day turning around.
He's got to be retained. Like whoever the coach is, the next one, he's got to.
From what he's done, Chris, to turn around the pitching staff when he gets to Mississippi State. From bottom of the SEC, bottom third, we'll say, to top 3, it was, I think, a ton of statistics across the board. I mean, they called it the Justin Parker effect. I mean,
I think that's fair.
And to them now take the reins of the interim here and go on an absolute heater. Yeah. Heater.
I'll tell you this, Justin Parker made him some money with that finish this season, whether it's at Mississippi State or it's somewhere else. Because that's got to be a guy you want in your staff. Like, there's absolutely no question.
Just the effect that he has on a program, and I think multiple facets now. He's proven he can do it as a pitching coach, one of the best in the SEC, and then obviously stepping in reins and leading a team in the SEC and is flipping kind of the momentum of the season around. It's predicated on just getting the most out of his guys. And I think that's getting the most out of, guys outside of Pico Connick, because we know how talented, how good he is, and the consistency that he's had. Obviously, Evan Series start last week. Obviously, the players, the ones producing the, outings and things, not the coaches. But, he goes, I don't want to say struggles, but goes a short start against Mississippi State for Mississippi State against Missouri, going 3 2/3, 2 earned, 6 Ks. But like, he's shown the talent that, trying to get the most out of his players. And I think he's really done so. Justin Parker, that is, at Mississippi State in the last month of the season, heading into the postseason, which they are going to absolutely do the postseason. Chris, you talked about it.
Yeah.
We both bought stock. I said, who are you buying stock in, Mississippi State or Florida, to reach the postseason?
I think I bought stock in State, didn't I?
I thought you did. I thought you did Florida.
Oh, did I do? Okay, did I do?
I did State.
Okay, well, we were both right.
And we were both right.
We're both right
because that's how good we thought these teams were.
Yeah, and right now, by the way, latest projections, Harrison, they have Mississippi State as the 3 seed going to Tallahassee, the Florida State regional. West Virginia in that one too, who's had a hell of a season. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be fun. My Mississippi State Omaha pick, there's still a chance.
Well, hey,
still a chance.
That Duke pick is still in the reins too.
That Duke pick's still in the running too. Don't let them get high.
Hey, that Duke pick is not in the reins for ACC champions though, as 6 teams enter the final regular season week in the ACC with a chance to win the ACC, but obviously only one can do it. The one that no one picked, the one that people slept on, said was
one that's not even ranked.
That was not even ranked going to the last season.
Not even ranked.
I think they're ranked now.
They're right now. Okay.
But they go from not ranked in which week I thought they should have been ranked, like 24, I think was reasonable, to take the series at Duke, a really hot Duke team, win the ACC thanks to some little bit of help, and jump in 16th in the rankings. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in the Fighting Danny Halls in his last regular season his last season before he retires. one of the most legendary coaches in college baseball, I think. Imagine if they could get him to an Omaha his last season.
that is a cool story. And I love the fact, by the way, you threw that in there at the end. Obviously, guys, that wraps up Harrison, our final regular season weekend recap. It's been a blast with you, my friend. And I will say to you guys, and you'll hear us echo this, but we can't say thank y'all enough for the love and support all season long. Obviously, previewing and predicting and recapping and breaking down everything from the weekend series and the midweek. It's been an absolute blast. And now we've officially made the postseason. Harrison, before we take some questions. Go ahead.
On Missouri, they did have the 6th ranked strength of schedule. So
kudos to them.
So, just saying.
Hang the banner.
hang the banner.
Hang the banner.
4-23. They have 4 quad 1 wins.
Look at them.
0 quad 2 wins.
We're 3 against. We're 3 against A&M.
Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. Harrison,
one against, what was it? UConn being the season.
UConn, yes, that is correct. They did beat UConn. Harrison, before we take some questions and get out of here, obviously the regular season comes to an end. Like I said, it was a very special regular season for us. Some incredible trips. Obviously, what this season meant to us. It was great baseball, but also, the growth of the Windup, growth for us personally. You guys being along for the ride each and every single show. Again, we can't say thank you enough. When you look back on this regular season, Harrison, really quickly, what will you remember the most from the 2025 SEC baseball regular season?
What will I remember the most? How detailed does that have to be?
Wherever you go, it can be on field, off field, our show related, like whatever. What do you think?
I think what I'll remember most from the 2025 SEC regular season in baseball is just the parity of the league as a whole, and just how deep the league is, the unbelievable talent that so many teams have across the board, the storylines that kind of intertwine with teams, coaches, throughout the conference, the integration of Texas and Oklahoma, and just how the season as a whole kind of navigated, just the ups and downs, the upsets, the thrillers, the moments, the players, the coaches, and just what that I think is meant for the league as a whole this season. I think that's what I'll remember most.
Harrison, I've got one on field. I've got one off field. I'll start with off field, and this one obviously.
I know the on field one.
Well, I'm going to try to not go the direction that you think I'm going to go, because I know what you think I'm going to say. But off field, and this one obviously near and dear to our hearts. Off field, I will remember the 2025 SEC baseball regular season as really the launching point of the Windup. Last year, obviously, we started this thing. We were doing the Windup pretty consistently, but we were still kind of getting our feet wet, just kind of trying to figure out, how many times were we doing the show every week? Like, what did that look like? And, we obviously really found our footing, I think, midway point of last season, and obviously big Omaha trip that did wonders for us. But, Harrison, I know you'd probably agree, like, the levels we took it to this season, and you guys helped us take it to, those listening via podcast, those that tuned in live and commented and we interacted with, like, I will remember the 2025 season as like, that's when our college baseball content started to just skyrocket to the moon. And we obviously love that as huge baseball guys. We love the growth of the sport. We love the growth, the interest amongst the fans. We've met so many of you, whether it's through the comments, digitally, in person, what have you. I'll also remember, Harrison, getting to go to some of these venues and take in some of these great atmospheres and hang out with so many great people. On field, again, I know what you think I'm going to say, so I'm not going to say that. I'm going to go with the other team in the Lone Star State. Dude, I mean, I'll remember Texas kicking the door down. I mean, really, truly, in year one.
Yeah.
I'll remember the top of the league and Texas kicking the door down, and what an incredible just first year in the SEC they've had across all sports. But baseball, I think, definitely is that exclamation point. I mean, Harrison, I'll also think of, to echo what you said, the depth of the league, and I think the fact that Mississippi State and Florida, like those two teams making the postseason, that ended up being one of the best stories in college baseball. The way these two teams really just rose from the dead, and we thought maybe A&M was going to be included in that if they could have taken care of business against Mizzou. And again, that's the low-hanging fruit, Harrison, so I don't want to sit here and beat a dead horse, if you will, and terrorize our Aggie following and listening more than they already have been this season. I mean, it'll be hard not to think back on the 2025 season. And the first thought be, remember that A&M team that was supposed to be all-world everything, and they didn't even make the postseason? So,
cover page. Yeah.
Anyway,
if I had to go more like micro, I would definitely say just the statement Texas made coming into the league and doing so much the fashion that they did, no matter how easy or tough their schedule was, overcoming adversity and just running the gauntlet of the SEC in year one, and what that means, I think, for the SEC, but also the University of Texas as a whole. And just like you said, I think it's, you hit the you hit the nail on the head with the hammer about an SEC team never being out of the fight. It feels like, with what Mississippi State did and Florida did after kind of just flipping the script of the season from first half to second half, and just what that means, I think, to the league as well. And that was so
Harrison,
impressive.
we had a lot of never happened befores happen this season. I mean, think about it. We never had a team that started 2-10 or worse in conference play made the postseason. Florida's going to do that. We had has a preseason number one ever missed the postseason? Has that happened since they started doing rankings?
I can't imagine so.
I don't think so. So I think that happened. Texas won the league for the first time ever. We had a team not win 5 conference games, first time in forever. We had schools setting their worst, conference records. There was a lot of stuff that happened that was a first.
Parity of the league, baby.
The parity of the league really showed itself. And again, I had a blast covering it all with you, Harrison. Obviously, the fun's just beginning for us, but definitely want to recognize what an incredible regular season it was with you, my friend. And obviously, there's no better way to keep this thing rocking and rolling than you and I being in Hoover in just a few short hours. And, of course, guys, quick reminder, tonight, 8 o'clock Central, Harrison and I will be live together from Hoover, Alabama, to lock in all of our picks, our predictions, talk SEC tournament, take your questions. Going to be an absolute blast. Cannot wait for it. Harrison, that being said, let's take a few questions. Why not? We'll go into some comments here. I want to highlight this one. JD65 says, started listening to your podcast halfway through the season, and your takes and podcasts are really good. Love listening and watching. Told a good friend about you. Now she watches. Thank you, JD65. We really do appreciate that. Cheers to you. Cheers to you, my friend. Bo Molinari says, whoop, Giga Maggies beat the hell out of Mississippi State. Obviously, that is who A&M will take on in the SEC tournament. Harrison, as you can imagine, a lot of trash talk today in the comments between Texas A&M folks.
And LSU.
LSU folks as
I
well.
do want to shout out. I want to do a cap tip to Gig and Bart for always tuning in.
Yeah, Gig and Bart. Some of our regulars, Gig and Bart.
Embracing the struggles of obviously his season in fandom, but, always, being a part of it and just contributing and, just
yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, a lot of you guys also tuned in every Friday Night Spikes as well. So, again, we can't say thank you enough. Our guy Chinook as well. He was all over the place, all over our country. Says, will this be for Harrison's first time in Omaha? It will not. I think you knew that, Chinook. I think.
Yeah. Hey, on this one as well, Chris, we're in the process of making an award for you. However, the payment went out with the internet. I'll throw mine in there too. My award will be delivered late. The question is, will it be delivered later than other items?
Hey, listen, will we have technical issues in Hoover? It only feels right that we should. I don't know. James Ferguson says, Gator Boy, stay hot. AK-47 was dealing straight gas again. There's a lot of reason to be excited if you're a fan of the Gators. So let's see.
Max Ballou back for Texas, how important that is for them, obviously.
Bevo said, y'all are cooked. We'll see. I mean, that could be huge. That could be big shot in the arm they needed. Kings East says, Ole Miss, biggest frauds in the SEC. Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, Arkansas, and Vandy at home. They avoided playing LSU, Georgia, Texas, Bama, and A&M. They also played both Mizzou and South Carolina, losing to South Carolina. The schedule was more manageable than some others. I will give you credit there, but I think fraud might be a little harsh.
Yeah. Hey, Chinook, he'll be there in the postseason. Plenty of seeds for people.
Oh, I'm bringing seeds down to Hoover. Don't.
Oh yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah, we're gonna have them down there. Randy says, "Hook 'em, baby. I'm new to this SEC thing. Is winning the conference by multiple games good? It's good. Yes. I think it is good. Last one, Harrison, and we'll get out of here unless you got a few you want to highlight. Add Lomax. Arkansas is my favorite team. I think they can get to Omaha. I just hope Dave Van Horn can manage the game to perfection. Yeah, I mean, certainly this is a Omaha's caliber team. So we'll see if they can do it.
Hey, I will say no technical difficulties. I'm on time. Chinook was on time.
Everybody,
regular season.
We're all, this week is off to a hot start.
Postseason stride.
Let's hope the weather will cooperate as well. Again, it wouldn't be Hoover without rain delays, although we didn't have any last year. So,
I didn't have any last year?
You didn't have any because you were there. I wasn't.
It only means Chris is going to jinx it, and he will be the jinx himself.
Probably so. Anyways, guys, we're going to go and put a pin in it. Harrison, you're the man. I appreciate you very much. Obviously, this regular season was a blast. And again, like I said, the fun is really, truly just beginning for us. Guys, stay tuned to all of our content. Content going to be bleeding out of the eyeballs this week. We're going to be covering this thing inside and out, from the live show going tonight, previewing, predicting everything with the tournament, to obviously throughout the week. We'll be recapping all the games. We'll be on site there. Our guy Harrison's going to be doing a lot of post-game interviews, conversations. I mean, we're going to be hitting you from every single angle, going to be going live every single day, like I mentioned, bringing you all the action, recapping the games. We'll be there through Friday, and then when we get back this weekend, we might be doing some live stream watch-along stuff from the studio here that I'm really excited about. And obviously, Harrison and I will be recapping all the action, breaking everything down. It is going to be an absolute blast, and it'll lead us, Harrison, into Selection Monday, a week from today, when we get to find out who's going where, who's hosting, who's a top 8 national seed, and what the path to the promised land, Omaha, will look like for everyone. So let's have a hell of a week in Hoover. Again, thank y'all for an incredible regular season. Can't say thank you enough. Harrison, thank you as well, my friend. You're a legend. Again, guys, as always, as we put a pin in it, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, where we get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com.
And Chris, the SEC season as a whole wouldn't be what it is without the fans that show up at the ballpark, that tune in, that watch college baseball and grow the game themselves. So shout out to everyone watching college baseball, and obviously the best conference in college baseball, the SEC.
Hey, well said. Let's keep it
going.
Strive
for six straight national championships for the SEC.
And as our friend Chinook says in the comments, one final one: don't let the boys get hot. Chinook and everybody else, it's too late. We already got hot. Now let's stay hot through the postseason. It's exactly what we're going to do. Guys, again, thank you all. For Harrison Fan, I'm Chris Phillips. This is the Windup, SEC Unfiltered's bi-weekly college baseball show, and the best college baseball show on the internet. Appreciate y'all. Y'all take care, and we will talk to you tonight live from Hoover, Alabama. Y'all be good.